Hello everybody and welcome to Retro Ratchet. Look at what we've got here. Our super rare Phase 1 Renault 5 GT Turbo. One of the fabled best hot hatches of the 80s with a reputation for bad build quality, but also a reputation for being one of the fastest ones out there. Are they as good as we remember? Then stay tuned to find out. So if you're in your 40s like me, you'll remember back in the 90s lusting after the souped up version of whatever hatchback you passed your driving test in. In my case, it was MG Metro Turbo, but in reality there was a lot better cars out there at the time. We had the 205 GTI, the Charade GTTI, we had the Uno Turbo, and we had the Renault 5 GT Turbo. So let's take a wee walk around this one and see what we think about it in 2024. I mean, the design, it just shouts 80s hot hatch, doesn't it? It's very, very squared off. Got these little plastic extensions on the arches here that run down the bottom. We've got this wee pinstripe across here with some graphics below. Not sure if that's meant to actually have turbo on it or not originally. Put in the comments if you know. Some very unusual looking alloys. I actually quite like them. Just this flat face on them here. I mean, they are tiny. These are 13-inch, but they still do look quite cool. And then this is also interesting, the door handles, they're hidden behind there, so it's just a little lever that you pull up. This one's fitted with a sunroof. So moving around the back, we've got the single exhaust. This one looks like it's had a wiper delete. Big GT Turbo badge in red. Obviously the red pinstripe along the bumper there. And this little grille section here on the bottom of the bumper. So it does make it look quite cool, but there is no spoilers or anything on that. They are still a little bit understated, I think, from the back. You know, the lines are very smooth on them. There's no body side mouldings along the doors. There is only these sill trims and the ones that go over the arches. And then looking a wee bit closer at these ones on the back arches, there is a little grille there. So I don't know if that's to let maybe air in or if that is just purely cosmetics. And again, the same nice little design feature there leading into the back. But yeah, it's a cute looking little car. They're very, very small when you actually look at it now. I mean, it's probably a similar size to a Fiat 500. There's a Fiat Seicento sitting behind us there, and that doesn't look that much smaller. You've got the red GT Turbo badge there, Renault badge in the middle. I think Phase 2's had the badge over that side. You've got the yellow fog lights. A lot of 80s cars back then had those yellow fog lights, which I think is pretty cool, very period. So the indicators that wrap around there, and yeah, very small bonnet, but yeah, it's a lovely little compact car, and I think the Phase 1 is maybe a little bit understated compared to the Phase 2. I don't know, it'd be interesting to see a Phase 2 beside it to see which stands out. So just the little touches like the red badges, the red pinstripes, fog lights, those alloys and that wee bit of body kit, I think really set it off. Put in the comments what you think. Understated or too much in your face? Okay, let's take a wee look inside. Now the interior of these is super quirky. If you've never been in a Renault 5 before or driven one, and the Turbo even more so. Cloth seats in this one. You've got this grey pattern here down the middle, black round the outside. They're very, very soft, but they do hold you in place all right, but they're very, very comfortable to sit in. And this one's fitted with a grey carpet. I think some of the later ones maybe did have a red carpet in them. Let's have a wee look at this dashboard here. So dashboards on Renaults are pretty cool. They sit at a bit of an angle there, and you've got this wee ledge to obviously keep the reflection off. But obviously got your speedo there, rev counter, and down below you've got this wee turbo gauge. I mean, this was hitting about halfway. I don't really know what that is in terms of PSI. You've got your oil level there, engine temperature, and your fuel gauge. So quite a quirky dash layout. And looking at the switch gear here, you twist these to put the lights on. There's actually no wear in these. They're really, really firm. And then your wiper stock is down here. It's kind of like an indicator stock pointing towards you, so that's quite weird. You just put that up or down. Super quirky. I mean, I guess these days you'd probably hit your knee off it and break it. You got your fog light switch and stuff down there. Obviously no aircon. You've just got standard heater controls with a fan there. And this one's fitted with a Sony radio cassette. You've got your electric window switches down there, just standard Renault items, and then this looks like it's an aftermarket gear knob fitted to it. But they're very angular in here, typical of Renaults of this age, but I think it's quite a nice place to be. And actually, it looks like we have an electric sunroof. I thought that would have been a manual one. So I never tried it out at the time. And then your door trims, these are just vinyl. Pretty standard looking with speakers at the bottom there. So let's have a wee look in the back. So not a whole load of space by modern standards, but I guess superminis were much smaller back then. And then the seat just hinges back down there when you're getting back into the front. But yeah, I mean, look at that dashboard there. Look at the angles of it. Super quirky. So I quite like it. And that steering wheel as well. That was really nice. Very, very sporty. You know, the 3-spoke there. Obviously no airbag fitted to that one. Right, so quite a busy engine bay under here. The ancient 1.4 Cleon engine. It's an 8-valve, and in this, guys, it's putting out 115 brake horsepower. It's a non-water-cooled turbo on these, I believe. I believe the later ones were water-cooled and they had 5 horsepower more. Don't put in the comments if I'm wrong. And a lot of pipe work going on in here. You can see this has got aftermarket silicone hoses, but it does look like quite a tight space to work in. This looks like it's got an aftermarket cone filter, so that would explain the lovely induction noise we got during the test drive. And it's also had an aftermarket dump valve fitted, and I was going to see if I could quickly spot where that was, but I can't, but it has had a dump valve fitted. This does look like an aftermarket intercooler. I'm not really sure, put in the comments. I think it would have been plastic end capped, but I might be wrong. Looks also like an aftermarket radiator. You can see all the welding done on that. So like the Maestro Turbo, it's quite unusual in that it's got a turbo, but it's actually a carburetor, not fuel injection. So that is pretty rare, and they do take quite a bit of settling up and fettling to make sure they run right. But I was pretty impressed with this for what is a very old 1.4 pushrod engine. Right, so this is definitely bringing back fond memories being back in an old Renault Turbo again. A few years ago I had an 18 Turbo, similar in some ways but not in others. This is a lot faster. But this has been something I've been dying to drive for a long time. It's one of those iconic 80s hot hatches, along with the 205 GTI and the Golf GTI. Right, so in this test drive we're going to answer 7 questions. 7 very important questions for those of you watching this video, because if you're watching this, you must like Renault 5 GT turbos. Right, the next, probably most important question is it fast? Well, let's find out. Second gear, let's floor it. That was pretty cool. So, what you'll have noticed there is in second, it's quite short-legged. It's hitting 50, you know, just about the red line there. And you know what? It's actually quite linear. You know, it was just pulling and pulling and pulling. So it's obviously not quick by today's standards, like an RS3, a Golf R, that type of thing. But I reckon back in the day, you know, I think there were 7.3 was their book speed to 60. I think that'll have been really impressive, considering what else was on the market back then. You know, your standard super minis that were maybe 15, 16 seconds to 60. This will have been a total flying machine. Put our foot down here again. That is so nice. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, 100%. You know, raggability. I mean, is that even a word? But I'll make it a word now. Good descriptor of a car that you want to just take out, blast up the red line all the time when you don't really need to. What is interesting is, despite it raining so heavily, traction is actually pretty decent. You know, you're not losing all of that motion there in wheel spin. You know, if it had an extra 50 brake, you know, you'd just be wheel spinning your way up the road. It'd be kind of a waste. So number 2, does it sound nice? Right, I'll let you decide. Hear that dump valve? 80s dump valve. I love it, absolutely love it. It's not too loud, but it's an aftermarket one that's fitted here, so it definitely sounds the part. If you floor it there, you know, as it comes on boost, you know, you can hear that induction noise. I mean, it's just got so much character. I just think it's great. I mean, it's very different to my 18. My 18 turbo is very refined. You did get some turbo noise, but you didn't get any dump valve noise, that is for sure. The exhaust on this one I think is standard. You literally can't hear it. The engines on these, they're not particularly refined, just because they're so old, the design's that old. But you're not getting a lot of engine noise in through the cabin, but you are getting quite a bit of tyre noise. So you see that induction roar and dump valve noise, that overrides everything else you're hearing. So I'm going to give it a good solid 10 out of 10 for sound. Next question I want to answer is, do you want to rag it all the time? I think that's an important question if you're in the market for an 80s hot hatch. You know, do you want to pick up the keys after work and just take it for a blast round B roads? So let's find out. Of course it is wet, so we can't really go too wild. But listen to that. So let's see if it torque steers. There's 30 mile an hour. Yeah, I suppose there's a wee bit. I mean, it is a wet road today, so it's probably not the ideal conditions to judge it. But yeah, I mean, it adds to the character. You just need to be aware that there is a little bit torque steer present, just to know how to handle it. Yeah, I feel a wee bit there in third. Pull in here, let this person pass, because this road is super narrow. The clutch is very heavy, I will say that much. Which we just stalled it. That's not good. Oh, and the battery's dead. Lucky we've got our charging pack. Note to myself, do not stall the car. Right, let's talk about how it is to drive. I was just talking about how stiff that clutch is and it's not a problem, and then I go and stall it and cause a traffic jam on this road as people couldn't get past, which is really weird. Anyway, get back to the drive. Yeah, so the clutch pedal's quite stiff. The gears, it does just feel like that typical woolly Renault gearbox of the 80s, but the throw is a little bit shorter than I remember on other Renaults. Certainly it's probably the same box as in my Volvo 460, and there is quite a lot more throw in the gear stick than there is on this one. We unfortunately aren't really going to get the chance, I think, to test how well it handles today. Right, so is the car comfortable? Yeah, these seats are well padded, a lot of cushioning in them. Opposite to modern cars, but I absolutely love them. And you're sitting and you're well, not strapped in as such, but you're well held in place with the height of the bolsters on them. So I really love it. Steering wheel's a great position for me as well. There's a leather section here on it. Pedals, like I said, are a wee bit too close for me, but you would get used to that. It's really just the clutch is at that in that bizarre position. Accelerator's not too bad. So I find it reasonably comfortable. So the next question, could you use a car like this as a daily? Well, I don't see any reason why you couldn't. I mean, one thing about these cars is got so much visibility around, there's so much glass in them. If you look around, you, these big windows, great visibility, you don't have parking sensors, don't really need them. You obviously don't have air conditioning, so in the summer it's probably not that comfortable a place to be. You've got a sound system down there, radio cassette. I think it would be a fun daily, assuming your cooling system is up to spec. Clutch is a wee bit heavy, and again, you probably wouldn't want to devalue something like this using this day in and day out. But other than that, the only other consideration would be crash safety, but we are getting a wee bit boring now when we're having this conversation. I guess it's just one of those things, but yeah, I mean, it would be a great little daily retro car, one of these. Certainly if you could afford to keep running it, you'd have a hell of a lot of fun, I'll tell you that much. I wouldn't want to be stuck in a long traffic jam in it though, that's one thing. I think that would get a wee bit uncomfortable. Okay guys, what do we think of the Renault 5 GT Turbo? Well, positives and negatives. Well, positives is definitely the looks. The 80s hot hatch theme is right in your face with these. I think it's a very comfortable place to be. It kind of fitted me pretty well. I thought the performance and the way it delivered its power was excellent. It was so much fun. I mean, it's obviously not fast with 115 brake, but it did feel like it was. There seemed to be quite a lot of torque. I thought it was actually reasonably linear. There wasn't as much lag as I expected there was going to be in a car like this, so I was pleasantly surprised. The throw in the gearbox, again, was a little bit shorter than I expected to be, so I don't know if it's a different setup on these to other Renaults of that era. I don't know if it's maybe had a conversion on it or something. So the gear shift was great. It was quite a short throw in it. It's a shame I didn't really get to experiment with the handling to see how well it handled, because I believe that is their forte. So I think the only thing I didn't really like about it was the driving position where your feet are away over to the right. So that was a wee bit awkward, but again, you would get used to it and you wouldn't probably not buy one because of that. I think another negative could possibly be setting up that carb, making sure that's running right. And I mean, it was a wee bit rattly, there was lots of creaks and things from the dashboard when I was driving, but you know, that just added to the character of the car, I think. So put in the comments, what do you think? Would you buy one? Would you like to own one? I'd love to hear what you think. I'll see you all for the next one.